Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today for this webinar entitled Addressing the Challenge of Cancer from a New Perspective and the Role of the Microbiome and the Bravo Experience. Before we start, the usual acknowledgements and disclaimers. Of course, I wish to thank you all for being so patient to listen to this presentation. And please remember, I'm not giving any medical advice here, and this talk is only for educational purposes. Please do not run into troubles and follow regulations. Standard of care must always be followed for any disease. And also don't get in trouble with health authorities. Abide by your country's medical rules. As you may know, I am the developer of the Bravo protocols and of several products that will be mentioned in this presentation. About myself. Often people ask me why I transitioned from experimental oncology, radiology, and molecular biology to microbiome medicine. As you may know, I have spent decades in the halls of academia and big pharma, from the National Cancer Institute at the NIH to being a professor in Florence, Italy for over 20 years. I have published over 240 papers alongside some of the most brilliant minds in science, including Nobel-sponsored research. But my journey led me to realize that the next great breakthrough in human health is not in a new synthetic drug, it is in understanding the complex relationship between our health and our microbes, our microbiome. This is why I founded a company dedicated to research and development in microbiome medicine. It is called Silver Spring. It is located in Switzerland. I will talk about this later. And the goal is to turn this high-level science into practical tools for people like the people in this audience. Today, we are witnessing a rising crisis of cancer in young people, the so-called turbo cancer. The statistics for these years are sobering. We are seeing an explosion of cancer in young, seemingly healthy people. This suggests that something fundamental in our environment, and specifically our internal ecosystem, has broken down. It is estimated that there will be over 2 million new cases annually. 1 in 3 Americans will be diagnosed. And there is an alarming rise in early onset cancer in young people. And more than 80% of the increase is in cases of people under the age of 50. The colorectal and breast cancers are leading. Genetic alone cannot explain this surge. Today, we are exploring a paradigm shift. We have always viewed cancer as a genetic mistake, but today we look at it as an ecological crisis within our body. And the hidden driver, our altered, our corrupted microbiome. Why are cases exploding? A number of reasons. Widespread environmental toxins and chemical pollutants everywhere. Microplastic, nanoplastic, and the so-called forever chemicals, the polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFS, that are infiltrating our bodies. The SAD, standard American diet. The antibiotic overuse that destroys our microbial diversity, chronic inflammation and leaky gut, sedentary habits that are not consistent with our human biology. And most important, probably the breakdown of our internal ecosystem and of our microbiome. What has changed? Our genetics didn't change in 30 years, but our environment, both external and internal, did. We are swimming in a sea of nano and microplastics and forever chemicals, topics that we have discussed before. These toxins, combined with a diet high in processed sugars and the overuse of antibiotics, have literally transformed our internal landscape. We have traded our protective ancestral microbes for chronic inflammation, which is the perfect soil for cancer to grow. And this is today's provocation of mine. Could cancer be considered a stealth infection? Why does modern medicine, so to speak, ignore the causes? We know that cancer is not contagious, but it is driven or associated with microbes. 1 in 5 cancers is officially linked to pathogens. Helicobacter pylori, human papillomavirus, and hepatitis are just a start. And this challenges a genetic dogma that is 100-year-old. Here is the question they don't want to answer. Why is the focus always on the broken gene and never on what broke the gene? We already know that 20% of cancers are associated with viruses or bacteria. But I believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg. What if cancer is not a mistake by the body, but a response to a change of our internal environment? What if cancer thrives on specific microbes that build fortresses to protect it from the immune system? This is not just bad luck, it's an ecosystem under siege. And we have to go back in time, forgotten truth from 1889. Because before we dive deeper, we have to look back. Back in 1889, a brilliant British surgeon named Stephen Paget analyzed over 700 cases of cancer, and he observed something strange. Metastasis is not random or accidental. He realized something that modern oncology has ignored for decades. He published in The Lancet that was and still is among the most famous medical journals in the world. And he stated that cancer seeds, the cells of cancer, are blown everywhere in the body, but they can only take root and grow if the soil, that is the internal environment, is ready for them. For 130 years, we have been obsessed with poisoning the seeds, that is, with poisoning the cancer cells, while letting the soil, our internal environment, become more and more toxic. Today, we are bringing the focus back to where it belongs, the soil, our internal environment. This is a kind of a universal law of the soil, from embryo to metastasis, because we need to broaden our perspective of Stephen Paget's 1889 theory. Historically, oncology used this seed and soil analogy to explain metastasis, why certain cancers spread to specific organs and not others. But today we realize that this is a universal law that applies from the very beginning of life. Because modern research tells us something profound. We are not cancer-free until a tumor happens. We always have cancer cells in our body from birth or even in utero. These seeds, these cancer cells, are already there, dormant. In a healthy body, the soil, that is our internal microbial and immune ecosystems, is so resilient that it rejects these seeds, preventing them from ever taking root. A primary tumor is not just a local accident. It is the first sign that the soil has become toxic, most likely acidic and anaerobic. For 130 years, we have been obsessed with poisoning the seeds, that is, the cancer cell, with chemo, radiation, while completely ignoring the biological terrain that allowed them to grow in the first place. Today, by restoring our internal environment that comprises the microbiome, we are restoring it to a state where cancer simply cannot exist, from the primary site to the farthest reaches of the body. Let's revisit the seed and soil theory. The seed is the cancer cell itself. The soil is the internal environment which comprises the microbiome. Oncology, oncotherapy, only tries to kill the seed. Toxic soils, toxic internal environment forces the seed to grow. Healthy ecosystem rejects the cancer. Therefore, you change the soil, change the outcome. We have to focus on the environment, not only the external environment, but in this case, our internal environment, not the disease. Modern oncology is obsessed with the seed, with the cancer cells. They use chemo, radiation, and surgery to poison or cut the seed, but they completely ignore the soil, the biological terrain where that seed landed. If you have a garden, for example, and a weed grows, you can pull the weed, but if the soil is contaminated, the weed will come back. In the human body, the microbiome is a fundamental component of the soil. When our microbiome is destroyed by toxins and antibiotics, the soil becomes toxic and inflamed. This is exactly the environment where cancer can survive. If we can restore the ancestral healthy soil, the cancer seed simply cannot take root. We are not just fighting a disease, we are restoring a habitat. It is a broken ecosystem because a microbiome imbalance is extremely common in all types of cancer. You know, a healthy microbiome is a complex ecosystem with many different species or strains. Loss of diversity weakens the immune system. And why does this matter? Because 70% or maybe more of our immune system lives in our gut. When we lose microbial diversity, in particular in our gut, our internal army, our immune system goes blind. It can't see the cancer cells anymore. In addition, a corrupted microbiome produces cancer-promoting toxins. And this leads to a leaky gut, where toxins and bacteria leak into the bloodstream and colonize the tumor. So this is something new. I don't know if all of you know this, but the cancer has its own microbiome. Its own microbiome that helps the cancer at our expenses. This was published 6 years ago in Science, a prestigious scientific journal. The human tumor microbiome is composed of tumor-specific intracellular bacteria. I shall elaborate on this later. By restoring the gut and fighting leaky gut, we are not just fighting a tumor in one organ. We deprive the cancer of its microbiome, and we fight a systemic collapse of our body's primary defense. People often ask, does the cancer cause the microbiome alterations, or does an altered microbiome cause the cancer? And the answer is, it is a vicious cycle. We know that stress of diagnosis, of course, when we are diagnosed with cancer, we have a very profound stress. And the toxicity of therapies, they act like a nuclear bomb on the microbiome. But we also know that when the microbiome is broken, is corrupted, is altered, produces toxins that damage the DNA and create a perfect inflamed soil for cancer to thrive. Through a leaky gut and an altered microbiome, the tumor actually hires specific bacteria, as we have seen in the previous slide, to protect itself from our immune system. If we only treat the tumor and ignore the leaky gut and microbiome alteration, the cycle continues. We have to intervene and break this loop from the outside in. As you may know, talking about the microbiome, we are only 10% human, because in our bodies there are 10 microbial cells per each human cell. We are actually a walking, living ecosystem. For example, in our DNA, there are 20,000 human genes, but the collective human microbiome is composed of an incredible number of genes, probably as big as the number of atoms in the universe. And our health depends on this vital partnership. We are more host than master of ourselves. We are complex superorganisms. And this is the reality that modern medicine often ignores. If we count the cells, we're only 10% human. The rest of us is made of bacteria, viruses, the virome, the human virome, and fungi. We are a biological partnership. When we talk about healing a person, we cannot ignore the 90% of the cells that make up that person. Our genes are just a fraction of our total genetic potential. If this partnership breaks, disease is the inevitable result. But this is the novelty. And this is an incredible discovery, only a few years old. Just as we have a healthy microbiome that helps us defend, cancer does the same thing. Because cancer has its own microbiome, that it is different from ours, and it favors the cancer, not us. The tumor is not an isolated mass. It is kind of a city that recruits a specific bacteria to hide from our immune system and even neutralize chemotherapeutic drugs. It builds a literal microbial fortress. And to defeat cancer, we must first strip away its allies and hack its private ecosystem. To summarize, an altered or corrupted microbiome shows decreased biodiversity that weakens the immune system, increases the production of cancer-promoting toxins, leads to chronic inflammation, and leaky gut that increases the travel of cancer-specific bacteria toward the tumor. And the diagnosis in itself and treatment of cancer further weaken the immune system and affect the microbiome. And tumor-specific microbes, the cancer microbiome, create a microbial fortress. So we have to turn the tide. And how can we do this? By restoring the soil. Because unlike our human genes, which are fixed, our microbial environment can be rebuilt. And this presentation today is all about this. We can literally cultivate a new internal landscape by shifting the environment from toxic and inflamed with an altered microbiome back to diverse and healthy. We do two things. We take away the fuel the tumor needs to grow, and we reactivate the immune army that has been sleeping. We are not just managing a disease, we are restoring the foundation of health. We are cleaning the soil so the seed simply cannot survive. And here comes Bravo. Bravo is not a probiotic, it's a microbiome restoration system or a super ecosystem that is designed to restore the entire microbiome. Most probiotics you buy at the store have 5 or 10 strains. Bravo has over 300 different species. Why? Because you can't fix a complex forest with just one type of tree. Bravo restores biodiversity. The proprietary fermentation of milk and colostrum or hemp seed proteins creates a unique bioactive molecules like GCMF that will be mentioned later. And Bravo helps rebuilding the foundation of human health through an immune system software update. This is the Bravo that you can buy. A Bravo kit for milk, so you can make your own Bravo under the form of a yogurt at home. Or we can make it for you in Switzerland and encapsulate, so you have a probiotic complex of fermented colostrum that is called the freeze-dried Bravo that comes in capsule. Or if you don't like dairies, you may have the same microbial composition leading to the fermentation of hemp seed proteins. And recently, we also developed the Bravo Microbiome Advanced Formula, or MAF cream, under the form of a topical application. Now, this is a question that often comes up. Where are all those 300 different strains? Because if I look at the label, I can see no more than 8. Well, I can assure they're there. And according to the regulations, we don't need to put them only on the label, otherwise the label would be extremely long and impossible to wrap around the bottle, because they are contained in the cultured kefir grains. Kefir grains are a very complex ecosystem with bacteria, with plasmids, with phages, bacteriophages, a friendly virus. But if you're curious and you wanted to look at the long list of those 300 different pieces of DNA that are present in the cultured kefir grains, we have published 3 papers. Here you can see some excerpts from these papers where they're all listed one by one, and you can count them all. And these are just examples, of course, otherwise this presentation would become too long and too boring. But all these papers are in the public domain. You can download them, you can satisfy your curiosity by reading all the strains that are in Bravo, and they're actually there. These have been published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. Bravo is unique for a number of reasons. So let's start with a couple of reasons that make Bravo unique. Because Bravo does not just add bacteria. The microbes, during the process of fermentation, they produce a very powerful immune-stimulating molecule that is called GCMAF. GC protein-derived macrophage activating factor. And this is present in all Bravo products. GCMF is a protein that activates macrophages, cells of the immune system, and by so doing, wakes up our immune system. The macrophages start attacking cancer cells or cells infected by viruses or abnormal cells in general. They could be called the infantry of the immune system. If you're curious about the GCMF, there are publications in the popular press, like this is the cover. Actually, GCMF had the honor to be on the cover of What Doctors Don't Tell You. Or if you wanted to go to more scientific articles, just look on PubMed for GCMF and cancer, and you end up with more than 80 scientific papers describing the role of GCMF in cancer. In addition to GCMF, Bravo eliminates the bad bacteria, in particular those that are inside the cancer, without harming the good bacteria that we need for our health, thanks to the presence of bacteriophages, or phages for short, that are friendly viruses that act as precision regulators. Think of the phages as smart missiles that specifically target and kill the harmful bacteria that protect the tumor, while leaving our healthy flora untouched. It is a level of precision that synthetic drugs simply cannot match. More about the phages, because the phage revolution is something that is at the center of active research. This paper was published only 3 years ago in Frontiers in Oncology the power of phages, revolutionizing cancer treatment. Now, they are very important because they do not act indiscriminately. These are biological agents that work as refined architects of the balance, selectively removing only the bacteria that disrupt the harmony of the microbiome. Now, in the context of cancer, phages are fundamental because the microbes of cancer, the human tumor microbiome, they reside inside the cells, inside the cancer cells. This is why, of course, antibiotics are ineffective against cancer, because antibiotics cannot enter into the cancer cells. Otherwise, cancer would be easy to cure with antibiotics, and this is not the case, because the microbes of the cancer microbiome, they live inside the cancer cell. They are kind of protected by the cancer cells. But phages are viruses, and their job is to enter the cells and to kill the cancer bacteria from the inside. And Bravo is unique because it offers a complete and natural ecology of phages. We have not added any phages. They come naturally. They derive from the fermentation, and this restores the body's innate capacity for self-regulation and protection. But there is more that makes Bravo unique, the bifidobacteria. And there are many, many bifidobacteria. Again, if you want to take a look at the long list of those that are published. Why are bifidobacteria interesting in the context of cancer? Because they are attracted to solid tumors. They travel inside macrophages, and the macrophages are being activated by the GCMF. And they go toward the tumor. They are attracted to the tumor. And once the bifidobacteria are inside the tumor mass, they start changing its soil. And they make it impossible for the tumor to thrive. They may be called like infiltrators of the cancer fortress. And so the cancer, from being protected, is an exposed one. And again, all this is something that is recognized by mainstream science. This review article that was published less than 1 year ago is entitled Application of Bifidobacterium in Tumor Therapy. And Bravo is also unique because it is a powerful detox tool. Because Bravo works by strengthening the intestinal barrier and physically binding heavy metals and toxins associated with cancer, such as lead, cadmium, barium, or glyphosate. I think you all know about Monsanto, glyphosate, and all the controversy and the billion-dollar causes associated with glyphosate and cancer. And this has been published in the American Journal of Immunology, the detox properties of Bravo. We saw a dramatic decrease in nagalase. Probably you have heard about nagalase. It's a cancer marker that is associated with cancer cell activity and inflammation. And these are not theories. These are hard facts. This is hard science that was published in peer-reviewed journals. And this proves that we can effectively clean the soil, clean and restore our internal environment. So with Bravo, thanks to the increased biodiversity, we reconstitute our internal environment, and this strengthens the immune system. This leads to a decrease of chronic inflammation and decrease of production of tumor-promoting toxins. No more leaky gut, and therefore decrease of cancer-specific bacteria that travel toward the tumor. On the contrary, we have phages and we have bifidobacteria that counteract the tumor microbiome and change the soil inside the tumor. We have activation of macrophages by GCMF. We have the bacteriophages that go and kill the cancer microbiome, the cancer microbes. We have the bifidobacteria that travel toward the tumor and make it visible to the immune system. Now, is all this a theory, or do we have clinical evidence? Yes, we have a lot of clinical evidence in the past 10 years that has been published in the most prestigious cancer journals. Like, for example, this paper published more than 10 years ago in Anti-Cancer Research. This is a landmark study, demonstrates that by using Bravo as a part of a comprehensive protocol, we were able to document an average tumor volume reduction of 25% in a very short period of time. And these were not just subjective improvements. These are actual tumor masses shrinking visibly under ultrasound control. And this was achieved by activating the body's primary immune defenders, the macrophages, which then release nitric oxide to attack the cancer cell directly. It is a powerful, non-toxic approach for even late-stage cancer patients. This article also was published more than 10 years ago in Anti-Cancer Research, and perhaps is the most profound evidence we have for the seed and soil theory. We followed a patient with an extremely aggressive breast cancer recurrence. An initial test showed that she was HER2 positive, human EGF receptor 2 positive. This is an oncogene. Think of it as a genetic gas pedal that makes cancer grow and spread rapidly. In the short 3-week window before a scheduled surgery, she didn't just wait. She aggressively changed her soil, her internal environment, using Bravo as a part of a nutritional immunotherapeutic approach. And when the tumor was finally removed and analyzed, something happened that mainstream oncology says it is nearly impossible. The cancer's genetic signature had changed. The oncogene was now completely negative, before and after. Here you do not see any staining, the oncogene was gone. And this proves that the genetic program of cancer is not a fixed destiny. By changing the environment, the internal environment, what we call the soil, we can actually force the seeds of cancer, the cancer cell, to shut down their most aggressive genetic pathways. It is the ultimate proof that the terrain is everything. Another clinical evidence, this one published on the American Journal of Immunology, a case of multiple myeloma. This was a 71-year-old patient facing both multiple myeloma and serious kidney failure. After implementing a protocol centered on Bravo, the results were staggering. Her cancer markers, specifically the kappa light chains, that is a cancer marker specific for myeloma, dropped by 95%. Even more impressive, her bone marrow biopsy showed that the infiltration of cancer cells was decreased from 20% down to just 5%. And this study provides clear evidence that we can modulate the immune system, can modulate the environment so effectively that the body begins to clear even hematological cancers while at the same time improving vital organ functions like the kidneys. And we have more evidence, for example, in areas outside of cancer, because to understand how holistic, comprehensive Bravo works, we have to look at the gut-skin axis. And this study, which was very recent, only 2 years ago, describes a woman who suffered from severe contact dermatitis for 16 years. Within just 3 weeks of taking Bravo, her skin completely cleared. And this was not a topical treatment, it was not a Bravo cream, it was the Bravo capsules, because it was an internal microbial reset. And this may have massive implications for cancer patients, for example, those who are undergoing radiation, because up to 95% of those suffer from a skin irritation. By fixing the environment, the soil, from the inside, we can protect the body's largest organ, that is the skin, from an inflammatory cascade of conventional treatments. In another case, this study is only 1 year old, shows an 83-year-old patient who achieved a total reversal of liver fibrosis. As you may know, liver fibrosis is a precancerous condition. And he went from a disease state back to a healthy score in just 6 months on Bravo. But the impact was systemic, not only the liver. His blood sugar normalized, his kidney markers improved, and his systemic inflammation markers dropped. And this further demonstrates that Bravo does not just help, it can actually facilitate the regeneration of organ tissue, in this case, the liver, and reset the entire metabolic system. Also, this, of course, has been published in a reputable peer-reviewed journal, International Journal of Radiology and Radiation Therapy. And whether the liver damage is from age, cancer, toxins, or radiations, Bravo can truly help. And let me just spend a few minutes on the newest product of the Bravo line, the Bravo MAF cream, which can be considered a transdermal immune support. To complement the oral Bravo protocols, we developed a sophisticated topical tool, the Microbiome Advanced Formula Cream. This is a transdermal delivery system that is based on microbial, that is non-animal chondroitin sulfate and gamma-aminobutyric acid, a major neurotransmitter. And by so doing, we created a formula that penetrates deeply to reach the lymphatic system and help with lymphatic drainage, which is of utmost importance in cancer. The known anti-inflammatory, anti-pain properties of microbial chondroitin sulfate and GABA help with inflammation and pain associated with cancer and with cancer treatments. And in addition, stimulation of lymphatic drainage helps removing toxins that are generated by the cancer itself and by the treatments that are used to treat cancer. GABA has a peculiar role, and also this we published in the International Journal of Radiology and Radiation Therapy, because GABA is the brain's primary calming neurotransmitter, and therefore it helps to reduce inflammation and calm overly sensitive nerves. And this is extremely helpful to counteract the anxiety that is typically associated with a disease, not only cancer, but in general with all diseases. And as we discussed in our recent studies, this is particularly beneficial, for example, for managing the skin side effects of radiation therapy. Now, the next three are perhaps the most important slides of this presentation, because I want to make something very, very clear. What we are discussing today is not just for the person currently fighting a cancer diagnosis. Honestly, I hope that none of you in the audience has a cancer diagnosis. We all have cancer cells in our bodies since when we were born, but I hope that none of you is fighting cancer at this moment. Nevertheless, this presentation is for all of us, for everyone listening, and also for myself, who being 70, maybe I have more than a few cancer cells in my body. As we established with the Ph.D. law, cancer cells, the seeds, don't simply arrive from the outside. All science confirms that we carry them within us from the moment we are born, and probably even while we're in utero. So the real question is not, do we have cancer cells? Because the answer is yes, we do have them. But it is our soil healthy enough to keep them dormant? In a balanced state, our internal ecosystem, our soil, acts as a constant surveillance team. Our microbiome, our macrophages, are like expert gardeners that identify these seeds, cancer cells, and prevent them from ever taking root. However, unfortunately, we live in a modern world that has become a war zone for our immunity. Between environmental toxins, the standard American diet, chronic stress, our internal army is exhausted and our soil has become toxic. And this is where Bravo changes the game. By restoring the ancestral complexity of our microbiome and reawakening the intelligence of our macrophages, Bravo serves as a comprehensive biological safeguard. It is about more than treating a disease. It's about proactive biological sovereignty. We are cleaning the biological terrain so thoroughly that cancer cells simply lose their power to survive. This is the future of health, making the human body an impossible environment for disease to thrive. And this slide, this cartoon, summarizes these concepts from a toxic modern environment, a war zone for immunity, where the cancer seeds can grow and thrive, to a proactive sovereignty, where Bravo restores the soil, and this becomes an impossible environment for disease to thrive. Now I am toward the end of this presentation, and I want to talk about Switzerland, because Bravo is not born in just any laboratory, it is crafted in the heart of Switzerland. As you may know, Swiss production is globally recognized as a synonym for superior quality, scientific rigor, and absolute precision. Every stage of Bravo's creation follows safety and reliability standards that only such a prestigious manufacturing tradition can guarantee, thus offering a product that is the perfect result of cutting-edge technology applied to natural biology. The company is called Silver Spring SAGL, It is a facility that operates with a kind of obsessive attention to detail that only the Swiss people can provide. This is not just about following regulations, it is about a culture of excellence. When you use Bravo, you are getting a microbiome restoration system backed by a legacy of scientific integrity and manufacturing reliability that is unmatched globally. But this is not enough, because the uniqueness of Bravo also lies in its Demeter certification, something that no other probiotic can claim. Demeter certification is a mark that represents a holistic, spiritual, and even cosmic approach to agriculture, started by Rudolf Steiner over a century ago. To be made in a Demeter-certified facility means going far beyond organic or biological. It means respecting cosmic cycles, protecting the environment's vital force, and treating every ingredient that makes Bravo as a part of a living, interconnected organism. Bravo is not just a collection of microbes, but it is a distillate of life energy, cultivated according to a philosophy that honors the harmony between humanity, the earth, and the forces of nature. In a world of dead, industrialized supplements, Bravo is a living, breathing ecosystem. We are not just giving you microbes. We are giving you the concentrated energy of a perfectly balanced soil. It is a science meeting the soul of the earth. Where are the conclusions? I hope that this presentation has given you the idea of a new paradigm for life, because we have reached a new frontier in medicine where the complexity of molecular biology meets the ancient wisdom of nature. We have come to understand that cancer is not an immutable sentence written in our genes, but often it is the reflection of an internal soil that has lost its vital balance. Through the science of the microbiome, the rigor of Swiss precision, and the Bravo holistic approach, we now possess the tools to restore that lost harmony. Rebuilding our body's ecosystem means stripping the seed of disease of its power and restoring the immune system's original capacity to protect, heal, and regenerate. Our biological future is not a random event, but it is a garden that we return to cultivate with awareness and hope every day. As we close today, I want to leave you with a profound shift in perspective. We have spent this time together moving from the forgotten medical wisdom of the 19th century to the absolute cutting edge of the 21st century science. We have unmasked how cancer creates its own microbial fortress and how a toxic environment fuels its growth. But we didn't stop at the problem, we revealed the solution. By combining the Swiss quality of Bravo with the biodynamic, life-affirming soul of the Demeter philosophy, we are offering more than just a product. We are offering a way to rebuild the human landscape. Whether you are currently facing a health challenge, I hope not, or you are dedicated, as I hope, to protect your current health status, remember this: we are the guardian of our internal soil. When we change the environment, we change the destiny of the seed. And I thank you so much for listening. It has been an honor to share this science with you today. And if you are interested in reading the boring science behind all this is a list of the references and evidence-based publications that support everything I've said so far. Thank you so much.